All right, Shalom. First, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rakakadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to all the brothers and the few sisters out there. Unto those like foreigners from the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Shalom in the Hebrew, which means peace. I'm going to entitle this "The Squeeze Continues" or "The Squeeze is On." Something to that extent. I'm going to play a couple videos, what I seen today. And those who have, what's the word I'm looking for? Those of us who have a brain, and those of us that understands that the videos I'm about to play has nothing to do with, uh, um, not I won't say nothing to do with. It shows you these people are the devil. All right. So the first video is this. And here are the excuses, and try to put two to two together. This shit don't add up. This is the constant reminder for those. Okay, Slakia. For those of us that few brothers and few sisters starting to pick up and realizing that this world is not cut off like it's supposed to be, like you thought it was. This is the reminder. When you're in this truth, there's always something to remind you that this is hell. All right, this is not our rest. Okay, matter of fact, I'll start with that real quick. This is truly not our rest. Micah 2:10. It says, "Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with a sore destruction." So, is it for us to get up and get our own land, or get up there and try to flee Babylon? No. Because no matter what they do, no matter what you do, however it's being done, you will owe. You All you doing is running to the next problem. Okay? These curses that the Lord said that was going to happen truly it cleave onto us. One more scripture before I let the videos do their thing. Baruch 3:8. It says, "Behold, we are yet at this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us." So what the Lord scattered us, He scattered us to the four corners of the earth. All right, all nations, Israelites dwell there, and always have the same issues, the same problems. All right, the last hired, first fired, may look like the other nations, may speak the other nations' language, but yet things not working out in your favor. Okay? It's just a constant reminder that this is not our kingdom. For a reproach and a curse, what is that curse? Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Okay? The constant reminder who we are. Okay? And to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord Yahweh, our power. So I'm gonna let these things play and then see where the spirit takes me.
New York City landlords are sounding the alarm over Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's rent freeze plan. Madison Allworth joins us live now from Brooklyn with the details. Hi, Madison.
Hey, Taylor, the goal is affordability, but landlords say that a rent freeze would do the exact opposite. It would force thousands of units to be warehoused, which is when they are left empty because it makes financial sense to do that versus putting in the money to have them renovated and then charging the rent. When you look across the city right now, landlords are telling me that there are 10.
First, let me just stop it right there. That right there didn't make no sense, because regardless, the landlord would have to fix the apartments that they plan to rent. The problem, which has always been the problem, which the news would never say, is the banks that want their money. That's the problem. The property taxes going up. That's the problem. 2020, is it 2020, 2019, whatever. 2020, 2019. Small businesses was wiped out. And the main small business, the first stack of small business that was wiped out was, guess what it was, everybody? It was landlords. Your landlords, a lot of your mom and pop shops and your landlords, or small businesses, they were wiped out. Why? Because the government gave the green light to the citizens that they didn't have to pay. So now, when the citizens finally got money, a lot of people didn't pay, but they was relying on it. So what ended up happening? All these places that were rented were doing were what? The banks took the money back. Actually, there was an anime. Ah, damn, I gotta find that. No, I think the anime had the music in the back, so I can't play it. And that's exactly what happened. So a lot of people that had small businesses, which was at the time spaces to rent, homes, stores, whatever, they lost dramatically. But those who weathered the storm at that time, that came out of uh, um, that craziness, that a whirlwind of a storm, here comes the finishing touch to finish off everybody that helped, that got out of that situation. This is diabolical. So what she just said made no sense. But they're not gonna tell you is the banks that always win. They're the ones that didn't stop. They didn't give a damn. Okay? And this is the same thing that happened 2008 with the housing crisis. All right?
Of thousands of apartments that are in this warehouse category, sitting empty because with the renovations that would be needed,
There's another thing. So why would they allow it? Think about the logic. I'm not expecting the devil to do anything, but what the information that the devil does bring out is illogical, because you have a lot of homeless people out there, people without a home, that can't even be in the streets. But you said you have a lot of thousands of apartments they call warehouses, meaning they're not doing anything with it. So think about the logics behind all this shit.
not charge enough rent to finance those renovations. That's according to the Gotham Housing Alliance. And it's not just renovation costs. Landlords are also sounding the alarm over property taxes. So I want to give you this example right.
And that's the key. It wasn't the renovation cost. Renovation don't take that much. It doesn't take that much to renovate something. They're easy to get a loan to fix up if they don't have the money. If they got the money, they can fix it up. They'll get the money back and then some. They know that. It's the property cost. Why the property cost is going up? That's $1 million question.
Here, this building, not all the staircases, just this one right here. This home, back in 2017 when it was built, the property tax was $25,000. Today, 8 years later, $36,000. That is a 44% increase in property taxes in less.
And why? Why did the property tax go up so high? See, when they tell us this is not gonna work, or this it's not enough this, or it's not enough food, this is not gonna work, this, that to the third, they're the ones that's causing the fucking problem from the get-go. But all they're giving you is the smaller solution. This side note, it was a Jake. I seen it was a video, which I watch a lot of videos, but and Jake was breaking it down about Venezuela, how Venezuela was one of the best places in Latin America. So good that people moved into Venezuela. People was doing good. They was getting a lot of funding to take care of the people, all this good stuff to keep it going. What choked Venezuela was all the sanctions that America caused. So after the sanctions, it choked out a lot of people's jobs. People started to flee. Basically, the guy was saying that America is known for making their own refugees. America is known for making their own homeless people. That's why I bring that story up. You want to know why there's so much homeless people? It's because the laws that's not being passed, the protection that's going to the banks, they got autonomy of laws of things to protect them, but not to protect the poor. There's no way in hell that a one bedroom apartment in any city of America today should be over $2,000, let alone 15 and so forth. And that's just being on a small. It is going to show you what the average price of apartments is today in this city. Now, why New York is so important? New York is so important because New York is a standard that how they want to accomplish their 15-minute city. That's the standard. So let it play.
Than 10 years. Obviously, rent has not gone up 44%. The landlord says the government is making this crisis worse, and they're just promising with these new policies like a rent freeze to make the problem even more.
So she just said it. The government is the cause of it. The government is the cause of, and that's the other video. That's the powers that be, the people that's supposed to be wise, are the ones that's causing all the fucking problems. And turn around and use things as a political game. This is why it's slated that Esau is the devil, and Esau, when in the kingdom of heaven, he's not gonna get nothing. All right, because when he had it, this is how he treated the people.
Take a listen.
I want the American dream. I want to make this a business work, right? Even a small little entrepreneur, the mom and pop. What have we done? We've destroyed that dream. For what reason? Because of stupidity? We have politicians that are doing things that don't know what they're doing?
So rents have skyrocketed. Here in Brooklyn alone, rent is up nearly 10%. And then in Queens, it's up over 10%.
This is fucking unfathomable what's going on here in the city. This shit is ridiculous. And then what they do when you try to move into a new place, you have to make, I believe, 3 times as much of that, whatever those numbers are in this picture right here, in order to get a miserable cave section. All right, and these used to be, that's not even house prices. This shit is utter. The people they forcing the people to lose it because it's impossible. Yet here in New York, there's somewhat protection of the people that's renting, but that's still not enough because everything adds up. How much more the rest of the United States? Because the other places where not the blue state, now they could kick people out if they're missing 1 or 2 months rent. This is hell.
You can see why the promise of a rent freeze sounds really good to the voters that elected Zoran Mamdani. And the mayor-elect has talked about lowering landlord costs, like property taxes, as part of the larger equation around a rent freeze. And Lopes says that if they were able to have a discount in property taxes, that he would love to bring the rent down. But when you have higher property taxes, higher operating costs, the costs have to be passed somewhere. Taylor?
Madison.
And what's going on is this is forcing the people that have these property to give up their property in order to get out of that debt. So who gets it? Companies like BlackRock. Here's the other one. Let me look for a shorter version. Actually, this is a shorter version.
This is going to be the last.
And so, yeah, the government came back on all this other shit, but the hell continues. The hell continues. And let this one play out.
I'm Christine Frizzell in Washington. Several states are now scrambling following a new threat from the Trump administration. This after the Secretary of Agriculture said 21 states, all run by Democrats, have refused to comply with an order to share data on SNAP recipients, and federal dollars to the program could be halted in a matter of days. According to the Department of Agriculture, waste, fraud, and abuse of the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program has been widespread and rampant.
When we found 186,000 dead people's Social Security numbers being used, 500,000 people receiving benefits more than twice. We had a couple of people receiving benefits in 6 states.
SNAP, often referred to as food stamps, is meant to help those who need assistance putting food on the table. 42 million Americans currently rely on the program. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins announcing federal funding will be cut next week to 21 Democratic-led states.
So here it is. You thought everything was back to normal, and they're already threatening to take the same thing that everybody was scrambling for 43 days. These devils are creating their own issues, and they're doing these things purposely. They're cutting off the poor, the needy, purposely. And I was watching one of these videos, and somebody put in a comment, "He who controls the food controls the people." And here's a fucked up thing about all this: the food that is out there is not even real food no more. So here it is, you scrambling and doing all this shit for something that is not benefiting you anyway. And then the amount of money that the majority of the average people get, it doesn't equate to how much the food costs. So they created problem. No solution. The only solution is we got to get the fuck out of here. That's the only solution. All right.
Which have not complied with the request for data on SNAP recipients to be turned over to her agency. New York Governor Kathy Hochul responding, why is the Trump administration hell-bent on seeing people go hungry, as other Democrats have for months slammed the cuts already in place?
We're going backwards on hunger. We are going to have more families struggling to keep food in the fridge, more hungry kids, more red tape for working parents who are just trying to cook a healthy meal for their kids.
But the USDA is calling for
that was ironic too, because he just said healthy meal, and there's no healthy meals out. There's no healthy food. You got GMO foods. You got food that has that thing that they put in the thing 6 years ago. Okay, you had a big executive of a corporation that tells straight up that the food that is given, they said that's for poor people. So if poor people, and then what they gave was printed meat. So if it's printed meat that poor people surviving on, and you still don't want to give them nothing, how cruel can you be? Think about it. This is why we call this man the devil. How cruel can you be? So you have everybody overall believing and pretending in your illusional state. You put everybody in the state of believing that the finances that they have is real. They kill, they steal, they do that. You congratulate them. You do all this other shit. You give them drugs. You give them all this stuff. And now you give them fake food. All right? Food, no nutrients, no nothing. And yet you still finding ways to punish the very people that relies on you. Okay? This is, and I will believe any fucking thing that you say. This is the devil who the Bible speaks of. All right? And in their little small circle, they call the majority of people goyim, which means cattle. So they call majority of people useless eaters. They're giving you fake food, and they're still calling you a useless eater. You prop up their society, they still call you a useless eater. You protect them. You protect the very elites of this world. Majority of the people put their shields on them, okay, that would go trade their own people. They betray their whole culture to maintain the delusion that this man has put on the people. Yet he's still finding ways to punish the set people that relies on him. But I'm gonna let it play.
Reforms, including requiring participants to reapply and highlighting states like Minnesota, which was recently found to not be using a state law to pause payments to those suspected of fraud. And Maryland already has to spend $240 million more in state funds in 2027 due to its high overpayment and underpayment error rate, a penalty included in President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill. Under President Biden, the program saw its largest permanent increase, with some changes slammed by Republicans. We saw $524 million of SNAP benefits being used at fast food restaurants in only 9 states. And guess what?
And how do they let that happen? The most restricted thing, they caused this. Everything is happening. They the ones that caused it. They use different colors to cause the very problem that they're complaining about to this day. How do you let that happen from the get-go? And then you want to report it like, oh, this is what's going on. Wait a minute. You guys set the rules and the restriction, and you're allowing this to go down. I'm not gonna. If you read the comments, I know for a fact there's some idiots out there that's gonna say the most dumbest shit. And here's a crazy part. They said that the majority of the people talk about the taxpayers. Oh, they're the ones that's doing it, right? Well, come to find out, the people that gets it's like $6 a day. You spend more money on giving to that welfare state or giving to the military than paying the poor people. This shit is crazy, yo.
Stuart, those 9 states are blue states. Yeah. That's a lot of money on nuggets and fries. More than a dozen states have sued the Trump administration, arguing the data request is illegal. And actually, the White House attempting to access information on undocumented immigrants. Secretary Rollins says the federal money will start being withheld next week. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
So you got out of a situation that supposedly claimed that because they couldn't come to an agreement for 43 days and so forth, which hindered and made people go crazy. And now all of a sudden you're going back. This time you're attacking particular states. This is why we call them the devil. Isaiah 10:1, it says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that right grievousness which they have prescribed." These laws, and there's a lot of lawsuits that's going against this administration, but what they're trying to show that it doesn't matter how many lawsuits, the reactionary thing, people cannot catch up. Basically saying F the lawsuits, F F everything. All right. They knew that. To be honest, that dude Trump, he should have been impeached long ago because all the illegal activities that he was doing. All right. Matter of fact, let's go back to another one real quick. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta let shit play out and see how everything's going. Here's the other one.
Stop buying.
Don't listen to this woman.
Thanks. There's continued fallout from yesterday's far-ranging presidential cabinet meeting that included Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth addressing a military strike on an alleged Venezuelan drug boat. Featured heated language about immigrants from Somalia and the president's health. And Olivia Rinaldi filed this recap. strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it.
President Trump and his defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, distanced themselves from a second strike on an alleged drug boat.
And might I add, it was a couple of days ago he was so proud about this situation. What's changing his mind? What is his point of view of what's going on? See, everything's a dog and pony show what we're seeing. But in actuality, a lot of casualties amongst all of this. This is why this is not our arrest. For you blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, this is not arrest. By the time everything's said and done, it's too little too late. They're moving on to the next crisis. Okay? That's how this world operates. But let me let this guy say what
targeted survivors from the first strike.
I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat.
Congress is promising an investigation into the September attack on the alleged Venezuelan drug boat. Congressman Ted Lieu, a former Air Force lawyer, was blunt in his rebuke of the decision.
Killing shipwreck survivors is a war crime.
But Senator Eric Schmidt, the former Attorney General from Missouri, was equally candid.
This nonsense about it being a war crime is total.
President Trump says he supports.
And that's a bullshit that he says, because that is unlawful what they're doing. Everything that they're doing is unlawful. Is the reactionary things that's happening afterwards. So for the bankers and the politicians hiking up prices to cause these effects, for people that's living, who if you making, back in the days, if you was making $20, $25 an hour, damn, you be living good. But you could barely survive in this society. To the very acts of war that they're doing, everything that they're doing is an error on their behalf. They're causing these effects, and the response of things that's happening. So now his eyes, more distractions, because what happened? Literally a couple weeks ago, all of Congress decided that it was going to let this Epstein file come out. It was supposed to be Trump's supposed to let it out. Then right before Thanksgiving, some random psyop just came to play. Then all of a sudden everything's changing. This is why we call this man the devil. All right. Everything is done to distract. Everything's done to bring more pain and suffering. And by the time it's all said and done, they just keep moving on. It says back in Isaiah 10:2 now, to turn aside the needy from judgment and take away the right from the poor of my people, that the widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. So, and this has always been the mode to operate. This is always been the same thing that's happening. They created a crisis. The crisis is done. And by the time it's all said and done, when they put it in their law books, many years later, these people suffer. And this is how they conduct these laws and so forth. Proving once again that Babylon the Great is that great oppressive state. All right. I'm not gonna make this too long. Isaiah, we stick to there. 14:5. And it says, matter of fact, 14:4. Thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how have the oppressors ceased and the golden city ceased? And that's the future prophecy. which indicates that in present time, the time that we live in, these people that's in position of power are oppressing the people, are crushing the people, right? Crushing the minds of the saints. Matter of fact, not Deuteronomy, Daniel 7:25. It says, "He shall speak great words against the Most High. It shall wear out the saints of the Most High." And when you go into the Hebrew word for wear out, is a Hebrew word for balal, to wear away, wear out, to harass consistently. Let's look up the word consistently, which we all should know what that means, but what was I watching? Oh, that stupid movie. Word consistently, continuously over a period of time, always. So they're constantly wearing us out. All right. And then what makes matters worse, if they can't get to you physically, but usually, Strong's definition, usually, but use only in the mental sense to afflict, wear out. Ironically, I just see this as the Chaldees. Wow. Wow. But so they wearing us out. This is not your rest, Jake. You Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. This is not your rest. The stress level for everybody has gone up the roof. It's coming to the point where either you're gonna let go or you're gonna hold on to dear life. Those who let go, who understands that, you're on the right track. You're discontinuing from this world. But those who hold on, you're going to be victimized by the crushing blow of what's to come, which is that RFID microchip. All right. They're going to have everybody by the balls. Either you want to be a part of this oppressive, crushing system, or you're going to let go. So, with that being said, shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.